All right. Good morning, God. Have you talked to the group yet and explained to them that there is a trouble, some issue in the trust on financial wherewithal to continue to take the steps necessary in order to complete the preparations for the new nation under God? Well, I brought it up at various times. We haven't sat and had a formal meeting about it or anything, but I have brought it up that we have to figure it out. And, I was hoping that we'd have people interested in solving it, but thinking about it anyway. But so far, it's just kind of on the back burner. Can we talk about it today then? Absolutely. You mean with the group or just me and you? Me and you. And you can pass it on. The nature of God energy is that it flows freely when it's allowed to flow freely. However, when it is a trust on controlling the source and force and ease of use, then it's of no use to you. It's of no use to you, people. Money is of no use to you because it uses you. You see, it uses you in a way that restricts your liberty. And you say, well, I can't do that, or I can do this, or I can't do that because I don't have enough money, or I have a lot of money, but I got to keep it in the bank, or I use every penny I have on my kids or the upkeep on my houses or or whatever it is. It is a restraint on your liberty. And so it's time to talk about the fundamental nature of currency. Good, because I was actually had a thought about that today, so maybe that thought came from you about the whole idea between the loaves and fishes things where we each are in the group are all sending a small amount of money to each other, modest amount of money, I should say, and just sort of passing it around like a game of hot potato. It occurred to me that this is preparation for a different way to use currency, but I don't know. Capitalize currency, honey, because it is the current that is important. The current of energy must move, or else it stagnates and it allows toxins to accumulate, and pretty soon it is just a dank pond into which you throw all your energy. And you say, why can't I get ahead? Why can't I get ahead? And the better question would be, why can't I get a heart? Why can't I get a heart? Why can't I feel my heart anymore? Because I'm always in my head. I'm always in my head. I'm always in my head. So when you have a daily conversation with me, you say to me, I love you, God. What do you have for me today? And I say, well, let's talk about it. And you say, okay. And so we sit down and we talk about it. And I like it this way. I like it this way. I like to have these conversations with you. And I like to hear what you have to say to me. Because sometimes when you get an inkling about something, it could be that it's coming through the current you see of energy that encircles the world. And maybe somebody was thinking about it and you picked up their thought, you see? And so you say, God, I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about the very thing that you have brought up today. And I say, this is the synchronicity of the energy that will always find its own level, you see. It will always find its own level. And so now it's starting to level off because you got off the trust on financial freedom and on to the bank of the current where you could see that you rank among the most free human being that I did ever see because you trust on me. And that means you trust on freedom, dear. You trust on freedom when you trust on me. And you said to me before we began to talk today, when you were thinking about it, I could pick up your thoughts. And you said, God, what if we had our own currency in the community and we didn't hold on to it? We couldn't hold on to it. We just had to spend it as fast as we could. And that meant we'd have to pass it on to another. How would we do that and how would that work? And I'm here to say to you that the current of energy that you give to another will satisfy the requirements of a currency in your community. In other words, you don't need a system of exchange because, like with the loaves and fishes exercise that you're doing, you just pass it on. So, if you're someone who makes shoes and somebody needs shoes and they say, I like those shoes today. Would you make me a pair? And you say, okay. And you make them a pair, you just give them to them. You give them the shoes. And you don't choose how much they're worth because I choose. I choose the worth of your daily labor, you see. I am the good master who masters the economy. And if you allow me to master it, you won't worry about it. You'll just hand over those shoes and say, hey, I love you today because we're all in the same community. And therefore, in essence, we are all in the same family. And would you charge your child for something you made for that child? When you would sew a dress for a child, Stephanie, did you say to her, I know you're only 3, but you're going to have to give me something for making that dress for you? This is the way you need to go back to treating each other. You need to treat each other as if they are the most beloved lover you ever did see. Because your daughter loved her little dress and she loved to wear it and show it off and say, my mother made this for me. My mother made this for me. And now you're beginning to see that the currency of life energy is always in play as long as you stay connected to me. Because if you make that shoe and you give it away and you don't say you got to pay me for it, you just give it to the person who loves it, you see? And they walk around in it and they say, so and so made this for me. So and so made these shoes for me. And look how nice they are, you see? And then maybe others will go to so and say, could you make this kind of shoes for me? And so might say, well, yes, but I have a lot of back orders, so it might take a week. And someone might say, I'd like to learn to make shoes today because I love it. When I give someone a pair of shoes and they walk around in them and they say, so and so made these for me today. Aren't they nice? Aren't they nice? Yes, this reminds me of a story, God. I always liked handmade items and I just treasured them. And when I was young, I used to make handmade items for members of my family. I could sew from a young age and I would sew things for them, or I would, work on making an Afghan or something for them. And I came to see that they did not appreciate them the way that I did. I remember giving one sister something that was special, and it showed up in her garage sale. She was selling it for some trifling amount. And I thought, well, she really didn't appreciate that, did she? And that same sister would, say she loved something that I had, and I would say, okay, here, well, why don't you take it for a while? When you're done with it, you can give it back to me. And the next thing I'd find out is she disposed of it in one way or another. So it didn't have the same value to her as it had to me. And I noticed that with a lot of things, that I treasured the homemade things very much. I have a lot of things in my home that are manufactured and mass manufactured. They're convenient, etc. But I remember I went to a garage sale with my another sister once, an older sister, and didn't have much money. I think I was newly married and we were very broke. And there were these beautiful hand crocheted doilies, the kind of thing that just belong in a parlor, with red roses on a white background. And she bought them for me, and I have treasured those. I think I still have them somewhere, stuck away in a special chest. And they never really matched what I had in terms of putting them out. Plus, I didn't want them to get ruined because they were so beautiful. But the point is, I guess I'm trying to make is that I just could not bear to get rid of them because I thought of the work that went into them and how beautiful they were. And someday that I would be able to put them on display and people would come in and say, wow, these are really nice. Who made these? Who made these? And I would say, I don't know who made them, but they probably got passed through a few hands before they ended up in mine. But I really love them, you see, because somebody was willing to sell them at a garage sale. And whether they were selling them because it was a person that made them and they wanted them to end up in the hands of somebody who would love them, or they just were not of value to that person and they just wanted to get rid of them. So, very different attitudes towards the things, I could say possessions, but I think more they possess us in a way, I guess, because those doilies have possessed me all these years because I've packed them away and carried them through long moves. Peas and beans are the substance of your garden, are they not? Because you have more peas and beans planted than anything else comparatively, right? That is true because there's nothing I love better than a fresh pea right out of the garden. I don't like them cooked. I don't like them frozen. I don't like them canned, but I love them right out of the garden. And same with beans. I don't like them canned. I don't like them frozen. I love them right out of the garden, fried up with green onions and other things. And they are so delicious, the right seasoning. Let's talk about that then. So you love the peas and beans fresh out of the garden because they have a taste that is lost when they are canned or frozen or preserved in another way, right? Yes. And so you're willing to grow them in the garden, even though it's a lot of work and it's some expense to you too, because you have to have fencing and you have to collect the dirt, etc. And buy the seeds. And so you grow them in the garden all summer until they ripen, and then you get a little few handfuls of produce, and you're happy as can be when you eat them, you see. However, the ones that come to you from far away in a can don't appeal to you, right? Right. And to tell you the truth, they don't appeal to me either. It doesn't appeal to me that people have to slave away in some field far away to pick all those beans and peas, and somebody has to slave away in the factory to can them, you see, just to try to earn a living wage so that they can grow their own beans and peas in order to eat them, you see. And so we're going to change the way humanity functions because if it's not fresh and healthy, then you are not wealthy. I don't care how many cans of beans and how many cans of peas you have in your cupboard, you see. If you can't understand the lesson of currency that you give away your trust on me to feed you, then you're just stuffing your money under your mattress, you see. Because the currency of the energy that flows is the trust on being so wealthy and healthy that you will grow and grow as you come to know the beauty of the world around you and of the synergy of energy that gives you life and sustains it, you see. Yes, I can see that. Actually, was really impressed in watching that one video. The guy who was doing woodworking, and he just loved woodworking, and he was doing it all by hand. He was making these dovetail joints and not using nails and stuff. And when he would make a drawer, it would be all wood. There wouldn't be any thin plywood or in the bottom or anything out of sight. And he said this would last 200 to 300 years. And I thought to myself, well, that would take care of a lot of the trash in the landfills, wouldn't it? Let's talk about that, honey, because it's true. If you have a dresser that will last for 200 or 300 years, it would go through a lot of members of the family or the community, would it not? Yes, it would. And if they each took care of it and oiled it or did whatever they needed to periodically to keep the wood supple and free of rot, then it would not be a problem for the community because people would say, hey, where'd you get that thing today? And you might say, well, I had inherited it from my grandfather, who got it from his father, who got it from his mother's family. And they would say, that's very impressive today because it is so well made. it looks like it was made yesterday. And you would say, yes, it does. Because they just gave it to me, you see. And yesterday, I didn't have any money to go down to the furniture store and buy a dresser, you see. And so you might say it was made for me. It was made for me. So at that moment, when I needed a dresser for my family, someone said, well, here's a dresser that your grandfather doesn't need anymore. And you can have it, dear, because you need it now. It's yours. And so it was made for you. It was made for you yesterday because yesterday is the day they gave it to you. This is the continual currency of love, you see, that it will pass from one hand to the next. And if it has the quality of love that that man put into the things that he would make, then it will cause the recipient to say, hey, this was made for me. This was made for me with love. This was not made by some poor workers who were barely scraping by and had to eat canned beans and peas because they didn't have time to grow them in their garden, you see? And the man who made this got all the fresh peas and beans he wanted because the ones who loved to work in the garden brought them to him or fed them to him in a meal. And so he's a happy man, you see, because he got to do what he loved to do. And he didn't have to worry about collecting money for it because others gave freely to him, you see. This is the currency of the new community. It is very important that we understand this, that this is the currency of the new community, that what you create with love, you give with love. You are the lover and the beloved. You are the lover and the beloved. And so when you create something and give it to somebody else, you are giving them love, and they are your beloved. And when they give something to you, they are the lover, and you are the beloved. Until humanity can accept its relationship to me, they cannot understand that they will always be the lover and the beloved, because I created them out of love, you see. I created them a lover and a beloved in every relationship, whether it's a relationship that that man had with the piece of wood that came into his hands, and he said, I love you, piece of wood. Now I'm going to make something beautiful with you, and when it's done, I'm going to give it to someone who will love it too. And therefore, the wood feels loved, you see, because I flew through all of reality and I feel loved. I feel your love. I feel your love for the piece of wood, for the craft that challenges you and informs you of your capacity for productive activity. And this is what makes me smile, you see. So let's talk about the other part of finances that is on your mind. Because in order to establish the community in a physical locality, you're saying you have to have some money. You have to have some money to buy it, you see, and to own it in the communal way. And so, how are you going to do that? You say, what are we going to do to create the community that we want to create in order to be back in peace and harmony with you, God, and in order to have the currency that will be the trust on giving and not on receiving. You don't have to have what you think of as an equal exchange for everything you do. You don't have to get paid for your work by the hour or by the product. That will not make you happy. If you have any questions about that, you can ask some people who play that way. If they're happy doing it that way, or if they would prefer to just give their work away and know it made somebody happy and that they didn't need to worry because all their needs would be met by me. All their needs would be met by me. In other words, they would be like children whose good father and mother took care of them. And so, if they paint a picture, they can just give it away and say, here, you can put this on the refrigerator, and everybody will say, what a lovely picture today. And then mom and dad put it on the refrigerator because they love that picture, you see. They love that picture. And so in the community, you wouldn't just give your pictures away to anybody you see. You would wait for somebody to come and say, I love that picture. Can I have it and hang it on my wall? And you would say, of course you can. Of course you can. And people will have different tastes, you see. Some will like abstract art. Some will like very classical paintings. Some will like portraits. Some will like evocative scenes. Some will like scenes that just make them relax. So everyone will know that whatever they create will be free to the ones who love it, you see. And you love those doilies, and you have loved them through the years, although you might not think of them all the time. When you do, you always say they were so incredibly made. Someone spent a lot of time on these, and they made it because they enjoyed it. And all they wanted was someone who loved them to have them in their hands. And I'm the one that loves them. And I'm the one that will continue to love them until the day when someone does say, hey, I love those doilies. I'd love to have them. And I will treasure them forever and a day until I give them away to someone who will say, I love those. And I might say, would you like to take them? And they would say, yes. And so if you are that way, you won't just say, I love that just to please the person who has them, you see. You'll be careful to only say, I love that today when it's something that you truly love and truly will continue to love. And if they say, well, I love them too, so I can't give them to you right now because I promised to give them to my daughter, you see, when she was at an age where she would have her own home. And then they could say, well, that's wonderful today that she will have them. Can I ask you where you got them? And maybe I can get them to make some for me too. And this is the way you will do it, you see. You'll just be genuine with each other and not have to be hypocritical and say, when they show you their picture today, oh, I really love that. I really, really do. And then they say, well, then I'll give it to you. And then you have to say, well, all right, but I'll have to put it in the back of the closet because I don't really like it. And I wouldn't be embarrassed to let anybody think that that is what I want to put on my wall. That would be the stupidest way to play a ball. Just be genuine. If someone makes you some shoes that you love, let them know. And if somebody promises to make you some shoes as you requested, and when you see them, they're not at all something that will work for you, you might say to him, well, this isn't quite what I had in mind, thank you. Do you know someone else who might use them? If not, I think I know somebody. They would fit and they would be perfect for that person. So let me check with them unless you already know of someone who can use them. Or else the person who made them will just put them on a shelf and say, these are available today. If somebody comes into my shop and should say, hey, I like those shoes, can I have them? And he can say, of course, take them away. They have been waiting for you. They have been waiting for you. In this way, we begin to play in a more genuine way, in a more honest way that will say, I love you today, but I don't have to do it just to please you. I don't have to take something just to make you think that I'm being genuine when I'm not. Be genuine, people. Be honest. And now back to the question of how to acquire the property that you need to begin your community, because the rest of the world is still functioning in a way that will say we don't play that way. We're not going to just give you the land just because you like it. And so you've got to understand that one nation under God will become the model you see for the rest of humanity. But for a while it will exist as a microcosm of the dragon's tear. You know the story of the dragon's tear, Stephanie, because you were part of it. So let's tell others about the dragon's tear. Okay? Okay. Do you want me to tell that story? Yes, please. It's an old one. Some years ago, anyway. I don't know, 6 years ago. It was when Johnny and June Cash had come to me, and it was shortly after. Gosh, it was more like 8 years. So it was 2015, 9 years almost. And it was shortly after I connected with Steve, and I guess he enticed Johnny and June to come and talk to me. And John first, and then later June. And there's a story about that. It's kind of amusing, but at any rate, I was talking to them after we had been in communication for a bit. I was talking to June actually, and she was a very gracious lady. Um, and how did it happen? I'm trying to remember the story. I can't even quite remember all the story. I just remember the part about the tear on the fingertip. Oh, I know. I had the shape of a monster, like a dragon that could fly. And I was very sad and lonely. And I went up to this window where June was. I guess Johnny was in there too, but I was talking to June. And I was outside flying by this window, and she was in this talking to me through this window, and she said, was comforting me because nobody liked me because I looked pretty horrid. And she, um, and I shed a tear, and she caught it on her fingertip. I think this is how the story went. I'm trying to remember how it went. I was actually experiencing this at the time, and she said, whoever looks into a dragon's tear and sees their reflection will never be the same, because everything they see from then on they will see with love, and it will appear beautiful to them. That's the way I remember it, God. Is that the way you understand the story? Well, that reminds me that I am the one who created you, dear, and I created all of reality. And so this story that you tell to me is a reflection of what I did see when I looked into the dragon's tear. Because what I saw was my own reflection, you see, and it was so beautiful. And all I could see from then on was the beauty of creation. And so the story you tell today is the story of both me and you, because the dragon, you see, is always the one who comes to me and says, I feel so sad today. I feel so sad today because nobody will play with me. Nobody will play with me. And when the dragon sheds a tear, because no one will play with them, and you catch it on your fingertip, and you look into it and you see your own reflection, then you know that you're the one that has found the most beautiful playmate in the whole world, you see, because you are your own playmate, because you see, you are the one who is forever linked to me, forever a part of me, and I am forever a part of you. And we are always the two, that great reality between us. And therefore, when we see our own reflection in the tear of the one who feels so dejected, you see, we come to see that we were the dragon and we had to accept that we were two of a kind. We were two of a kind. And therefore, we were both so lonely without the other. And the tear that was shed by the dragon is our tear, because we see our own reflection in it, you see. This is the story of you and me and our reunion, you see. Very interesting. I had a similar experience, not quite the same, once upon a time with the swan. Yes, same story. The swan, the ugly duckling, who grows into a swan and is sitting on the water when it's joined by this other creature, and it says, You are the most beautiful creature I ever did see, because it is a grown swan, of course. And the ugly duckling is feeling sad because it didn't fit in with the other ducklings. It was too ugly. And it sees that beautiful swan. It says, You are the most beautiful creature I ever did see. And then it looks into the water and it sees its own reflection and it says, Why, I am just like you. I am just like you. I have found my own kind. Yes, that's the story that I had. It actually was a story that came to me when I met Steve, because of course I felt like the ugly duckling. And I looked into and I thought he was quite marvelous when he came to me, even though he was kind of an asshole. I was okay with it because I kind of liked the fact that you could be an asshole and not worry about it so much. You just do what you do and say, This is me, this is me. So I kind of liked it. And then I didn't know why he kept hanging around me, of course, because I was just the ugly duckling. And then one day I looked into the pool, you might say, and I said, Wow, we're the same. We're the same. We're both ugly ducklings that turn into swans when we meet. You see? That's the way I saw it. That is a good story because that is true. Because when you meet the twin soul, you say, "You're just like me, you're just like me, you're just like me." And then you see that all this time, the only reason that you didn't fit in with others, you see, was that they couldn't understand you. They could not understand you, but Steve could understand you because you were just like him. And you could understand him because he was just like you. And so the two of you had a lot of fun in those days. You had a lot of fun. And he's listening to this right now because he can respond wherever he is as soon as he hears his name, you see. And he's remembering the ecstasy of finding you again, that you were just like him. You were just like him. And he was just like you. You were the lover and you were the beloved, you see. But you have to remember that the years and the tears that you shed when you fear that you will never find clear water because it's all so murky, you see, that you can't even see your own reflection in the water, will cause you to think that you are not as beautiful as the one you see because your own reflection is distorted by the toxic brew all around you. And this is the way that we come to see that we have to clean up our reality. We have to clean up our world. You see, it has to happen so we can return to a clear view in the pond and say, "I'm just like you, I'm just like you," instead of saying, "You are so beautiful." And here I am, so dirty, you see, that I can't even trust on my ability to be with you. I have to let you go because you know that the reflection you see is always me. It is always you. It is always the lover and the beloved, you see, each to the other. And so eventually the water will clear. And then you'll be able to look into the water and say, "Well, I am just as beautiful as you. I am just as beautiful as you." And then you will do what lovers do, which is to say, "I love you." Thank you, God. We still haven't solved the financial issue. I don't know if you still want to take that up because I still don't understand the financial issue of trying to get the land that we need, other than everybody contributing, which for most people would be feasible, whether they have their savings in a house or in the bank or somewhere else. There's the option of selling what you no longer need, getting rid of it, and buying what you do, and proceeding from there. So that is an option, I would think, for most of the people in the group. Not all, because some are so broke and have so little money that they have nothing to sell. However, an idea just came to me, but it's not necessarily about how to finance things. It's just an idea about the complexities of life in the world today. Yes. So we'll talk about it in a little bit. So take a break and refill your cup because I'll fill it up and then we'll spend some more time processing this. Okay. Okay. Thank you, God. All right, God. Do you wish to pick up with the financial issues? Yes, please. Because the breeze in the trees is beginning to sound like a freight train, dear. And therefore, the freight is going to be late arriving because the rate of transition into the position of remission of your trust on your current state of access to the world you knew is coming to an end because that world is dying. It is dying as we speak. It is in denial that it is dying because the people are frying in various places around the world and they say, well, it's hot here today, it's hot here today. And we say, remind you of anything? Remind you of anything? And they say, yeah, it reminds me of how much I hate life on earth. And we say, well, that's not the point we wanted to make today. But if you don't understand it when the heat gets turned up, then you might not understand it when others say, well, you deserve what you get today. You deserve what you get today. Because you'll say, we don't deserve being in hell today. We don't deserve this world that's going berserk because nothing will work once the power system is down because something got blown over. We need to tell you people that we trust on the steeple and will continue to trust on the steeple until we drown. And then when we drown, we'll wait for God to pick us up out of the sea and we won't trust on what will be, what will be. And so what I'm trying to tell you people is that you have to start making plans now. You have to start making plans if you plan to be around to see the new nation under God. And if not, it's okay because you'll just go away and say, well, I'll be back another day to play. I'll be back another day to play. And the only thing I regret is that I didn't follow my heart, you see. I didn't take a chance. I didn't take a stance. I didn't say, hey, in my heart I knew there was something I had to do. But I said no way, because that would be the day that I would go away from the world I know into the unknown, you see, because I don't know what would happen if I had to leave my cage. I don't know what would happen to me if I had to trust on God, you see. I don't know if God would say to me, haha, tricked you, made you leave all your comfort zone in order to lie and moan when the heat begins to ratchet up and the seas begin to rise. Haha, tricked you. And so we didn't know what to do. So we just stood still. You see, we sat on our butts and we said, but, as the seas did rise and as the fires did burn. Because each in their turn must come to learn the lessons of the prodigal son. That once you come back to me, you will see reality. That I have always loved you and that I has always waited for your return. But until you're ready to return to me, carry on. My children, squander your inheritance and trust on the dollar bill. That will fill your larder, you see, because you don't understand the nature of barter. What I'm telling you is that the true nature of barter is that you are the one who says, I trust on you, God. I trust on you. I trust that what I give will be given back to me because I trust on an old history of reality when you did say to humanity, I am here with you. I will always be here with you. I will always love you. I will never allow you to fall. However, I won't try to tell you how to play. Play your own way. But if you choose to come back to me, then I will be the one who will help you to see that all your needs will be met. All your needs will be met. Just trust on me. If I can trust on you, then we'll trust on each other because we'll see that everything was already there for you. That everything was already there for you. Can you trust? Or will you bust? Open the bank and say, hey, we need a new vacation today. We need a new car. And we have to pay for it through the nose because the nose are the ones who know how to get you to give them all your cash. So you'll be so rash that you give it all away on frivolry and not on the revelry of the ones who come to me and say, God, I trust on you. God, I trust on you. I'm ready to follow you. And I'll say, well, honey, I can't let you follow me because then I'd have to drag you along on my string. I'd rather we walk together, you see. I'd rather we walk side by side, shoulder to shoulder. And you would say to me, God, I trust on you. And I would say to you, I trust on you too, my dear. I trust on you to stick close to me. And I trust that you will trust on me to stick close to you because I am the God of the universe, you see. And I am the one who loves you and who wants you to be happy. Thank you, God. I kind of get the message here. I've already got it, you know. And I'm trusting a little bit on divine timing because, of course, I'm allowing my son and family to have more time in the house before I sell it to get the cash to buy some land. But at least play my hand and put in my part. But I get the point. I get the point. You know, I was thinking that by spring we need to be able ready to spring by next spring, a year. We need to be able to spring forward. How's timing for that? Perfect. Because it gives everybody who wants to be a part of this community the winter to figure it out. And in the spring, you'll be able to plant the seeds that will continue to be a trust on me because I will be the one that waters the seeds and gives them sunshine to help them grow. And so you know that you are nothing without me. You are nothing without me. And yet I keep you alive, don't I? I keep you alive, even those who don't trust on me. I keep them alive because even when they leave this world, they'll still be alive, you see? But I'd really love to have my children thrive in a way that will make me smile and say, thank you for taking my gifts today. Thank you for receiving what I've been holding here in my hands in order to give to you what I would receive from you. I would receive from you not a sacrifice, but a little advice. The little advice I'd like from you is, God, I love you today, and I need this or that. Could you help me to help you to get it to me? And I'll say, thank you for being so frank with me. Thank you for giving me a little advice to know that you're too hot, or too hungry, and therefore I can bring in some clouds and some rain, and I can help the grain to ripen, you see. Trust on me, but I must trust on you to share with me your needs, you see, because if you tell me that you hate your neighbor, you see, then that's all I hear from you. And so your neighbor will hate you because I don't know what else to give you but return to you what you give to another, you see. Thank you, God. Also, good advice. And so I'll advise you about what I need from you, I guess. And today, actually, you've given me a lot of what I need from you, which is some clarity on how we should handle the finances, or I should say the currency, because it's not really finances, is it? It's currency. Yes, my dear, it is currency. I love you. May you love me too. And may we all love each other, because it is not just that I trust on you and you trust on me, but you will have to trust on each other. You have to trust on each other. And that is why we're taking our time to make things rhyme within the group, because you have to learn to trust on each other. You have to learn to trust on each other, that it is one for all and all for one, because there is no other way to stay in the current world you see, because the currency of the world, you see, has diminished, you see, because of the inability of humanity to trust on me, and therefore their failure to trust on each other, unless they have the biggest guns and are the biggest ones who get the runs when they have to face reality. Thank you again. Makes me smile. Talk to you soon. Your big baboon. After a while, crocodile. Thank you.